This was supposed to be a straightforward review. The Mazda 3 Sedan is slightly better than the hatchback, and with this Skyactiv-X engine it's no longer underpowered. It's not the best car in class, but much better than the car I reviewed last year. Job done, click subscribe, see you next week. But Mazda decided to fiddle around with the engine lineup and with the pricing, which makes my argument invalid. Let's go back to April 2019 when I reviewed the Mazda 3 hatchback with a 122 horsepower Skyactiv-G engine. To recap, a lot of potential, could use more power, visibility was rubbish, and in tight corners the car wanted to continue going straight. Also, the automatic gearbox seemed to have a mind of its own. Otherwise, it's a beautiful car with decent driver aids, much improved infotainment system, logically laid out interior. It could be better, but not everyone can be Volkswagen. Hashtag not sponsored. So, what's changed in the pricing and the engine lineup? Now, this may vary from market to market, but Mazda introduced a 150 horsepower Skyactiv-G, and in some markets, it replaced the 122 horsepower model. It's still a mild hybrid and it's got cylinder deactivation technology. In the 122 horsepower version, cylinder deactivation could cause some vibration. Prices went up. For my English reviews, I tend to use German prices, so the 122 horsepower Skyactiv-G now starts at €23,800 versus €23,000 last year. The 150 horsepower version costs €24,800, and Skyactiv-D diesel and Skyactiv-X 180 horsepower petrol cost about 26 grand. Interestingly enough, the 150 horsepower Skyactiv-G is, at least on paper, less economical than the more powerful Skyactiv-X. Skyactiv-X is a very complex design which is supposed to give you the best of both worlds. Direct response to the gas pedal like in a petrol engine, and at the same time good fuel economy and torque like in a diesel engine. That's thanks to the spark plug controlled compression ignition, or SPCCI. More about that from Christian Schulze, Design Director of Technology Research and Technical Regulation Compliance at Mazda Motor Europe R&D.
For Skyactiv-G, we have already introduced a very high compression ratio. That means we compress the air-fuel mixture a lot to have more efficient burning. For the Skyactiv-X, we have now started an additional measure. We are using a very lean mixture. That means we're using a lot of air in comparison to a little bit of fuel. This makes the combustion very efficient. The problem is such a fuel cannot be ignited directly by a spark plug, and that's why we need compression ignition. This has never been possible to control the compression ignition, and what we do now is we compress this lean mixture and then we use an additional very small fuel amount which we explode by a spark plug to create a pressure wave inside of the cylinder. And this pressure wave runs like a tsunami through the cylinder and then ignites all the rest. This is the way how we can really control this compression ignition and achieve a very, very high efficiency. As we now bring so much air into the engine, we have a very wide open throttle. So this engine breathes very easily. That means the reaction to acceleration commands through the throttle are very direct and very responsive. So this engine is really very agile.
So what's it like in real life? In combined cycle, Mazda Sedan Skyactiv-X with a manual gearbox should use about 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers combined. This was my best result. Extra urban combined, I'm getting about 6, which is within reason. At the time of recording this, I have not yet driven the 150 horsepower Skyactiv-G, but compared to the 122 horsepower version, the Skyactiv-X has noticeably more oomph, around 2,000 to 4,000 RPM. Below 2000 RPM threshold, you can clearly tell it's a naturally aspirated engine. I find it somewhat irritating that the Eco Nanny tells me to be in 6th gear around 50-60 km per hour. This means I have much less than 2000 RPM on the tach, and to get moving I have to downshift anyway. Moreover, during some maneuvers, reaction to a gas pedal is somewhat delayed. For example, as I roll to a junction to make a left turn, the guy from the other side also wants to make a left turn, so we're both keeping the junction clear for each other. And I press the accelerator and precious fractions of a second pass by. They already left the junction and now I have another car approaching fast. Meanwhile, I'm stuck there with the pedal buried in the carpet, waiting for the computer to allow the car to emit only as much as the regulators think it's okay. These split-second moments are normal in everyday driving. I should assume the car will react to my orders and that I won't have to wait a week for approval. I understand Mazda is a small car company and it wanted to optimize existing powertrains rather than invest in EVs. However, in the end, it launched the MX-30 EV, which now is supposed to get a rotary petrol engine range extender as well. I'm not an automotive executive, I don't have the right answer, but many players focused on turbocharging and hybrid powertrains. Just saying. Handling. Just like in the hatchback, it all starts great. The 3 Sedan goes across long sweeping corners with ease, like it's on rails, and then you approach a tighter bend, which again you think there's not going to be a problem, and suddenly you realize the front wheels are struggling for grip. Never mind the seats have poor lateral support, at least the driver can hold on to his dear life and the steering wheel, but the passenger just keeps going from one side to another. The brakes bite from the top, and that's good. The manual gearbox is great. The automatic is programmed to be efficient, but not necessarily driver-friendly. Soundproofing is alright, and in the sedan, visibility is far better than in the hatchback. The C-pillars are smaller, there is more glass on the rear doors, and the rear window is larger as well. All positives. In an early hatchback model, I complained about connecting Android Auto, cutting off the traffic sign recognition. This has been amended. Traffic sign recognition disappears only once you start using Google Navigation and Android Auto. That unfortunately is a problem in most cars. As far as I know, only Mercedes can display Android Auto sat-nav and traffic sign information at the same time. The cockpit in the sedan and the hatchback is pretty much the same. You get decent-sized door pockets, cup holders, generous storage under the armrest and in the glove box. I don't understand why the USB port is just over the cup holder, so a taller half-a-liter bottle can touch the cable. I know I'm nitpicking. I'm also nitpicking when I say the aforementioned bottle tips over in the corners. The infotainment system is simple to use, the screen is high resolution. I like you can set certain rules, like launching the front camera when you start the car. This can come in handy in a situation when you always reverse park in a tight spot and then you have to drive out without being able to see the road. I also like the intuitive controls for dipping side mirrors. You just need to press the button on the mirror to dip it rather than search for options in complicated menus. In the back, it's also the same, not entirely obvious as, for example, the Mazda 6 Sedan has a longer wheelbase than the Estate, the rationale being it could be a limousine. In the Mazda 3 Sedan, there is just as little legroom in the back as in the hatchback. There is no USB port, but at least there is an armrest with cup holders. However, the sedan is 20 cm longer than the hatchback, and all that extra length is behind the rear axle. Longer tail means larger boot. This one has 450 liters instead of 350. But wait, in the hatchback review, you said 444 and 327 respectively. So what happened? Okay, so just to make sure, I measured the boot and I got more than 500 liters, probably closer to 600 if one were to include the spare tire well. I understand small discrepancies resulting from different measurement standards, but here Mazda underreports the boot volume by more than 50 liters. The last time I saw something like that was in the Lexus ES. I have two problems with the boot. One is lack of shopping bag hooks, and two is the fact I need to push the seat backrests forward to fold them. They're not spring-loaded, and as this is a long boot, I better go around the back anyway and do it from there. Especially, I'll probably need to slide the front seat forward as well. On the plus side, with the seats folded, you get a flat loading area, but there's a high load lip to go over. Prices of Mazda 3 in Germany start at around 23,800 euro for the Skyactiv-G 122 horsepower for the hatchback. And the sedan is available only with the Skyactiv-X engine, so this test car with options would cost about 34,000 euro. In Poland, we can have a sedan or hatchback Skyactiv-G or X, and top trim hatchbacks can also have all-wheel drive. In Poland, this test car costs about 30 grand. What's it like in your market? What engine body type configurations are available? Let me know in the comment section below. Mazda 3 Skyactiv-X was supposed to be the answer to the sluggish 122 horsepower Skyactiv-G. But with the 150 horsepower engine right smack in the middle of the price range, there is not much point upgrading to the 180 horsepower motor. And how do you like Mazda 3 Sedan, and what do you think about Skyactiv-X technology? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car reviews, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and join me every Friday, or just click one of the links on the screen right now. I also started a new channel about the gear I use for filming my shoestring budget car reviews. The channel is called Marek's Gear, so feel free to check it out and maybe subscribe as well. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.